besides the rushing record, but throwing, that's amazing.
As Nick said, his medallion
game is off the chain.
He's winning that too. Him and
no question about it.
Him in prime time?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, honestly. All right, Brian, which is more impressive? Which of the Lamar's feat is more impressive, the rushing record or the passing touchdowns?
Well, it's the passing touchdown. When he came out of college, we knew that he could run the football. The big question was, are you able to throw the ball effectively in the NFL? And if you guys can remember all the way back to the playoffs last year, through 3 quarters against the Chargers, he had 3 completions. And at that point, you're saying he ain't going to make it in the
wheels
NFL.
Were falling off, it looked.
Yeah, they're just trying to figure out, can we salvage something from Joe Flacco? We have to draft a quarterback. But now you see the things that he's been able to do this year. It's just been straight impressive. The windows he's fitting the ball into, the deep ball accuracy, the middle of the field getting the ball to the tight ends. All those things have been impressive in the leap from year 1 to year 2. Which a lot of people make that big leap. Nobody has made a bigger leap passing the football than Lamar Jackson.
Here's what I'll say. I think the only way that the passing touchdowns are more impressive than him breaking Michael Vick's rushing record is if you didn't think that he was going to be capable of developing into a competent quarterback when he came into the National Football League. I mean, unless you thought he was going to be Tim Tebow or Jace, then I don't think it's a situation where you should be impressed by throwing for 30-plus touchdowns. We had 9 quarterbacks in 2018 throw for 30 or more touchdowns in an era where throwing the football is as prolific as it is and the rules are set up to have success in the passing game. To me, the rushing record is far more impressive just because you only got 2 guys that have ever done it in the history of our game, and they've been playing National Football League for over 100 years. So to me, Lamar Jackson's ability to week in, week out, routinely be effective at being able to run the football and then to stay healthy and available for his club, that to me is the most impressive part.
And to me, they are doubly impressive when paired. It's the best passing season. You said Vinny Testaverde, right?
Yep.
So there's a Vinny Testaverde, by the way, didn't play for the Ravens. No. Played for the Browns. So this is a Browns record, meaning it's not just, the reason I bring it up is it's not like Houston Texans have records that are only because the team's been around for the last 20 years. This goes back in all of Browns history because the records went with the team to Baltimore. But to beat Vick's record, if you remember when Vick set that record, it was because he really, and I really like Michael, he couldn't throw well at that point in his career. He could throw a beautiful deep ball, and he was terrifying to play against, but he was not the passer he became in Philadelphia at that point in his career. He was running as a necessity. Lamar sometimes runs as a necessity, but sometimes it's just one of the weapons he can hit you with. But I did find it interesting. So I do find the rushing record more impressive because I also think that record's going to stand as long as he wants it to stand. Like, he could break it. I don't see anyone coming up, through the pipeline that is going to be able to match what he has done. But he was asked about the rushing record after the game. He said he didn't even know what happened. Mark Ingram's like, I told you, congrats on the field. He's like, oh, that's what you were talking about? The passing record, I think, means more to him, because of what to your point, what he's been questioned about. One other just note from the post-game interview I thought was really interesting. Whenever he's been asked about his individual accomplishments, he has deferred and said, we're worried about the season, we're worried about the Super Bowl, things like that. But he said in the game he was disappointed that Mark Ingram didn't get to 100 yards because he said, I'm trying to get Mark to 1,000 yards rushing. And that to me was such an awesome moment. And I knew it was something you would like, Jenna, because he is basically saying my individual accomplishments, don't worry about it, it's all team. But my teammates having individual goals, whether that's maybe there's a contract incentive for Mark Ingram, he gets to 1,000, whatever.
Or maybe going back to Mark Andrews when they took that touchdown off the board because of the ineligible receiver reporting.
Right, things like that. Finding things to, as at that young of an age, be that worried about the success of your teammates, I think is awesome.
That's leadership. That's a guy that can lead a football team, the leader of men. He has galvanized that locker room. He's taken over it, and he's doing it without saying very much. His play on the field has spoken volumes. But here's a stat, and this is why you guys should understand and believe that the passing is much more impressive. In all 3 of his 5 touchdown games, he's done it under 25 attempts. I mean, talking about 25 attempts. attempts, he has 5 touchdowns. That's why it's been impressive. And to see the change from year 1 to year 2, of course, you have to talk about his
efficiency numbers are wild.
Very efficient.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that speaks to the sports character that Lamar Jackson has and his commitment to playing the quarterback position at a high level. Even though he's a supremely talented athlete, he's not just a guy that's out there that's an athlete playing the quarterback position. He's a quarterback that happens to be an athlete. And the dedication that he has to his craft and the way that he made that jump from year 1 to year 2, that to me speaks volumes about who he is as a person.
But he's a young second-year quarterback. He's not an older second-year quarterback. He's younger than Burrow is right now at LSU. Are you surprised with how consistent he's been and how the trajectory has been on upward? I mean, we've seen even guys like Russell Wilson who've had step backs like he had a couple weeks ago. But he has been really consistent this entire season.
And by the way, the last 2 weeks prior to this one, his passing numbers were deflated a bit. You saw that against the Niners, and I forget who they played last week. Oh, against Buffalo. That in neither game was he super effective. The team was very effective, and they won both those games. But against two better defenses, his passing numbers took a step back. Where I've been the most impressed, I'm not surprised he shredded a bad Jets secondary. Listen, he shredded the Rams. He shredded the Dolphins. He beat up on the Cardinals. Where I've been most impressed is he's not turning the ball over. Like, that is, even Mahomes last year, the one knock on him was he might make some mistakes, either having the ball knocked out of his hands or throwing it to the other team. Mahomes in year 2 won the MVP, which is why I'm referencing it. Lamar's obviously going to win the MVP in year 2. His ability to take care of the football, not just throwing, but also with that many rushing attempts, to me has been very impressive. And given the style in which they play, winning the turnover battle is such a